I'm sure a lot of you guys know what QAnon is, but I wanted to get a little bit of an update on it so that we're all on the same page before actually getting into the article that I wanted to look at. So this article is by the Daily Beast, and it just kind of describes what QAnon is and what they believe and where they came from and stuff. So let's give it a quick read. The deranged QAnon conspiracy theory movement came close to a presidential endorsement this week when Donald Trump praised the group as people that love our country while refusing to disavow their bizarre beliefs, which include a faith that he'll eventually arrest and execute his political opponents. No hope of monetization on this. I don't really care. I feel like this information is important to get out anyways. Trump's remarks were the latest and perhaps most alarming illustration of the gains QAnon adherents have made within the GOP, even as the FBI warns that it's a potential domestic terror movement. But even as more people embrace QAnon and its beliefs are poised to win at least one congressional seat, which, by the way, they did, much of the public remains unaware exactly what it means to believe in QAnon, why anyone should care about the movement, or what QAnon could mean for American politics. The following is a helpful explanation of the rot taking hold in our political system. This subheading is entitled, What Do QAnon Supporters Believe? Nearly all QAnon believers sign on to one basic view, that the world has long been controlled by a sinister cabal responsible for a wide array of evils, from wars and famines to diseases, including the novel coronavirus pandemic. The cabal is believed to have tentacles in the top echelons of the Democratic Party, Hollywood, banking, and the government deep state. QAnon believers baselessly think that members of this cabal, including Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and various Hollywood celebrities, torture and abuse children in satanic rituals. To stop this, in QAnon's telling, the military recruited Donald Trump to win the presidency and dethrone the cabal. Now QAnon believers are eagerly awaiting a day called the Storm, in which they believe Trump will order mass arrests of his political opponents and either ship them off to Guantanamo Bay or order them executed outright. QAnon believers think they themselves will play a small role in this purge by educating average citizens about QAnon ahead of the arrests as part of what they call the Great Awakening. So there's a lot more to this than just that. This is kind of a top-down overview look at what the belief system is. This all started on 8chan, which is basically like a forum, like a posting type of place that you go, like 4chan, or kind of like Reddit from my understanding. I've never been to one of the chans before, so I only know what I've read about it. But somebody named Q Clearance Patriot made a post back in, I think, 2016 on 8chan about all this stuff about Hillary Clinton. They were saying Hillary Clinton is in custody and the National Guard is set to invade U.S. cities or some other ridiculous thing. And they said, if you want proof, then go talk to a National Guard that's on active duty and ask what they're doing on this date. Ultimately, it was all completely fucking fabricated, completely made up. This Q Clearance Patriot poster didn't know shit, and they were making all of this shit up, and they've made like 1 billion false predictions at this point, but they continue posting. Google and YouTube and Twitter and a whole bunch of other groups, social media networks and internet infrastructure has banned them or shadow banned them sometimes to slow the spread of this conspiracy theory. In some cases, I believe that they're right to do so, depending on what's being spread. Like, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, for example. You can't incite violence, or you can't incite some dangerous situation that will get people hurt, right? That's exactly what QAnon does. So I'm okay with it in some situations. But even though they're censored, I've been following this for a very long time, and I did find the Q posts. So this website here is just a big group of Q posts. This is where Q posts their latest stuff now. Leading up to the election, October 31st, 2020, at 6:44 p.m. Eastern Time. Are you ready to finish what we started? Nothing can stop what's coming is not just a catchphrase. 6:46, 2 minutes later. Are you ready to hold the political elite accountable? 6:49. Are you ready to take back control of this country? And then they posted a couple of weird things, like a YouTube video, which is a link to like the Last Mohican soundtrack or something like that. I don't even know, like a soundtrack to a movie. Just pointless stuff. And then on November 3rd, election day, 1:27 a.m., so this is before anybody voted, they said that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth. Abraham Lincoln, November 1863. Together we win. Q. After November 3rd, not a word. Of course, they predicted a Donald Trump win, but this is not their first failed prediction. They predicted a landslide victory in the 2018 primaries too, and fail. I mean, you know, it was a blue wave at the time. They still recovered from that failed prediction. They have made many failed predictions over time, and they keep bouncing back. Q does. They continue to have hundreds of thousands, millions of followers maybe. So with all that information at our disposal, what I wanted to do was take a look at a new article by the Daily Beast, QAnon Lost and Confused After Trump's Election Showing. It is basically about how QAnon is reacting to Donald Trump losing the election, because he is the linchpin in their plans. If he's not going to be arresting his political opponents and all that junk, what was all this for? He has to be the president for this conspiracy to be real. Or he has to fulfill his role by arresting his political opponents, one or the other. Let's give this a read and see what it says. Aside from perhaps Donald Trump himself, no one is struggling more with the president's re-election defeat than QAnon conspiracy theorists. Since October 2017, when the mysterious Q first began issuing clues on the anonymous message board 4chan, I think it was 8chan, not 4chan, QAnon believers have been promised that Trump would bring down a cabal of P-word cannibals in the Democratic Party, Hollywood, and banking, with mass waves of arrest in a cathartic moment called the Storm. They've been promised that the Storm would solve not only the world's biggest problems, but their own. At various points, they've even convinced each other that Trump would solve diseases like cancer and absolve crushing medical and credit card debts. But as Joe Biden built his lead in Pennsylvania, QAnon followers were faced with their greatest challenge yet. For years, they've been told that no matter how bad things looked for Trump on the outside, the president and the military had everything in hand. Patriots were in control, Q told them in one popular motto, "Enjoy the show." Now it's starting to look to even some of the most dedicated followers, some of whom have sacrificed family in their devotion to the conspiracy theory, that QAnon might actually have been nonsense, and they aren't sure what to do. It's hard to keep the faith when your wife and daughters have left you and we didn't get the decisive Moab win we deserved on election night, complained one QAnon supporter on a QAnon forum on Friday, as QAnon believers tried to cheer one another up. No win for me, period. By the way, Moab, I don't know if you guys are aware, Moab stands for Mother of All Bombs. It's actually a reference to a bomb that was dropped in Afghanistan or Iraq or somewhere recently. It's basically the equivalent of a nuclear bomb, except it's not nuclear, it's traditional, and I don't know, it's just wrong. Anyway, not going to get into that right now. Let's keep reading. The 2020 election results have shaken the faith of QAnon believers. Some have taken to despair. Others began promoting new conspiracy theories, such as one that alleged ballot watermarks would save the election for Trump. And we're going to get into the watermark situation in a minute. QAnon believers have faced disappointment before. The entire conspiracy theory launched with the idea that Hillary Clinton would be arrested by the end of October 2017 and shipped to Guantanamo Bay. When that failed to happen, they decided that they'd misread the clues, or that Clinton had been arrested and was wearing an ankle bracelet, or that she really was imprisoned and the Clinton appearing at book signings and in TV interviews was really a clone. Yes, those are the types of people that we're dealing with right now. That's who we're dealing with. People that believe that celebrities are being replaced by clones. And it's not a small number of people. It's so big that it's caught the attention of the mainstream media and the president and the president's inner circle. That's how big this is. It's huge. And Facebook went around banning a bunch of these groups. I mean, right-wing Facebook banned a bunch of these groups. Hundreds of thousands of people were members. Channels bigger than mine. Like, way bigger. Let's keep reading. QAnon has faced election losses before, too. In 2018, Q promised that Republicans would weather the midterms only to be proven wrong, a contradiction that one-time QAnon supporter and newly elected Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican from Georgia, has claimed shook her faith in QAnon. A QAnon member is a member of Congress now. But Trump's election defeat promises to undermine the entire project in an unprecedented way, leaving the storm unfulfilled and the cabal intact. The disappointment of a Trump loss also comes at a tumultuous time internally for QAnon. Ron Watkins, an administrator on QAnon hub 8chan, which I think is the rebranding of 8chan, whose technical access would theoretically let him post his Q, or at least know Q's identity, announced that he was stepping back from the site. Neon Revolt, an anonymous blogger who's amassed a following in the QAnon community, implied this week that the Q account was for sale online for $1 million, an idea that brought into question the conspiracy theories foundations. Holy shit! The Q account is for sale online. Wow, dude. Wow. This brings up another question about, like, the question that Nervardia asked. What happens when Trump goes to jail? What happens when the QAnon account is sold to some rando? What happens? Does QAnon disband? Do they give up? He's their leader. Do Trump supporters just disband and give up once Trump goes to jail? No. That's not what's going to happen. Not going to happen with Trump, not going to happen with Q. There are faithful, die-hard believers who will believe this until the day that they die, period. No matter what information comes out about Jehovah's Witnesses, there will always be some core set of believers in the Jehovah's Witness religion. Even if the governing body came out tomorrow and said, it's all fake, guys, we made it all up, time to go home, pack it up, and forget about it. It wouldn't matter. There's always going to be a core group of basically every cult out there who continues to believe even after the leader gives up. QAnon is here to stay, sadly. If we want to figure out how to mass deprogram people, I think we should look to 1945 Germany after World War II ended. Let's keep reading. Making matters worse, QAnon believers had been left to deal with Trump's dwindling ballots lead without their mastermind, since Q stopped posting after Election Day. Even more ominously, a QAnon believer was arrested in Philadelphia on Thursday near the ballot counting site with QAnon merchandise and an AR-15 style rifle. Holy fucking shit, dude. Of course, QAnon believers can always invent new bizarre claims to reaffirm their beliefs, even if only for a little while. In this case, some of them have crafted a hoax about a fictitious ballot watermark. Hang on, let me just make sure everything is going okay in the chat here. I hope so. Oh my god, if I owned QAnon, that would be my life's dream. What would I do with it? What would I do with the QAnon account? Maybe I'll make a whole video on that. What could I say to make them think that I'm Q and get the most people to stop believing it possible at the same time? I should make a video about that. That's a good idea. Thank you for mentioning that, Hannah M. That's a pretty funny idea. GoFundMe so I can own QAnon. Don't start a GoFundMe for that, in all seriousness. I would return all of the money. I wouldn't do that. I don't feel like it would be right to use people's money that way, but that's an interesting thought experiment anyway. Okay, let's keep reading. The origins of the watermark claim center on a viral Facebook post that asserted the Department of Homeland Security had planted secret blockchain watermarks on legitimate ballots. Okay, let me stop here. This really pisses me off. I see the word blockchain fucking everywhere. Do people know what that is? I feel like people don't know what that is. Blockchain is nothing more than basically like a data storage device. That's it. no different ultimately than like MySQL or like an Excel spreadsheet. It's just more secure. The way it's structured makes it impossible to alter. I guess that's probably the best way to say it. That's why Bitcoin works with blockchain. And whoever invented Bitcoin, we don't really know, but whoever it was also invented blockchain. People think it was a group of people, but I constantly see the word blockchain being thrown around in nonsensical ways. What does this mean? Have planted blockchain watermarks on legitimate ballots? That's nonsensical. That does not make any sense. Anyways, let's continue reading. The post, which went viral on a Stop the Steal Facebook group with more than 300,000 members before Facebook shut it down, posted that DHS created those watermarks as a sting operation to test how many true legitimate ballots emerged after the election. Quote, "The Dems fell right into the trap of this sting operation and Trump has it all," the post, which had been screenshotted and copy and pasted into forms across social media, read. There was a tweet by this guy, David French, and in this article. So I wanted to read the tweet and see what it said. "If you thought primetime Fox was out of control last night, it's PBS NewsHour compared to what's circulating in Q-adjacent quarters of social media. A friend's very sweet, very Christian mom sent him this." It says, "Could Trump be playing his Trump card? BQQM election fraud update. If you've been following for a long time and you know the term watch the waters, you probably understood it to mean the Three Gorges Dam. But it was never referring to that. The watch the water intel refers to the watermark on the official election ballots. The original ballots are also registered on a QFS blockchain to prevent fraud." I don't know what that means. They're misusing the word blockchain there. 12 states were targeted. The National Guard has been deployed to 12 states: Alabama, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Colorado, Texas, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Washington, Virginia, Delaware, Illinois, and Kentucky, and they are now counting the official ballots. But you also need to understand a few things. First, who exactly is Amy Coney Barrett? She just so happens to be one of the lawyers sent down to Florida in the 2000 election to recount votes for George W. Bush's win. Second, who exactly is Brett Kavanaugh? Well, he too was one of the lawyers sent to Florida in the 2000 election to recount votes for George W. Bush's win. It goes on like this. Most or all of this is factually incorrect. And I'm going to get to the watermarks on the ballots in a second. There was a grain of truth to it, but it's completely inaccurate. The paper goes on to say, "The Dems fell right into the trap of the sting operation and Trump has it all. Fraud will be exposed for the world to see. And isn't it fancy how the amazing Justice Amy was confirmed right before the election so that she can rightfully take care of the business of election fraud? Oh, and this is only the beginning of the epic times that lie ahead." So are they saying that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death was all part of the plan? That's disturbing. That's real fucking disturbing. This is the kind of thing you find in the QAnon conspiracy realm. Like, this is insane. Let's keep reading the article by The Beast. The Daily Beast. "For watermark believers, Biden ballots in battleground states will be wiped away as fraudulent once DHS and the National Guard step in. After that, the theory goes, top Democrats will, as always, be arrested." So there was another tweet by somebody about the watermark claim. Let's read the tweet. This is Emerald Robinson. She says, "Lots of my followers have been asking me to check into a story that DHS put a watermark on election ballots to verify them. So I checked. Would you like to hear what I found out? My DHS source just got back to me. Says there's no DHS standard watermark on the ballots. The printing of ballots was done by the states because they're state elections, not a federally run system. Each state is responsible for their elections. The printing of the ballots was done by the states. DHS recommended a watermark, but it was not a requirement. States could sign up voluntarily for the Arlo program or not. Bottom line, this watermark thing is twisted out of proportion at best, complete lies at worst. Let's keep reading. The watermark conspiracy is taken off. Twitter replies to top Republicans like Trump and his sons have filled up with diehard Trump believers asking for confirmation of the alleged sting. The watermark shall rule the libs and bring them down for good and jail for all. One pro-Trump Twitter account tweeted at Trump on Friday night. The watermark conspiracy theory has busted out of QAnon's confines. Newsmax White House correspondent Emerald Robinson nodded at the theory on Friday, tweeting that lots of my followers have been asking me to check into a story that DHS put a watermark on election ballots to verify them. It also regularly appears among talk radio show callers, baffling even hard-right hosts. Glenn Beck was forced to address the watermark hoax on his show on Friday, pointing out that one of its tenets, that one paper company supplies all the paper ballots in the country, obviously isn't true. Quote, I want to believe the watermark thing, Beck said. That doesn't even make sense logically. It doesn't work, and before you spread things, you should think things through. Well said, Glenn Beck. Didn't think I'd say those words in my life, but here we are. This is a bizarre fucking day, a bizarre fucking week, a bizarre fucking year. I don't know where we go from here, but it's got me a little concerned. So that's how QAnon is responding and reacting to Donald Trump's political loss. Some of you may not realize this, but there are different political bubbles on the internet, different political spheres. You find conservatives consuming one type of news and everybody else consuming other types of news. The conservative sources tend to be on the very extreme side. And I debated opening this on stream, but I think we're just going to take a quick glance right now. There's this website called the Donald.win, and this is where the Donald subreddit went after they were banned from Reddit. I just wanted to kind of glance through some of the posts on here out of curiosity, see what they say. Here are some of the top ones. Watch Party. Geodis brings the heat with Mark Levin. I hear you asking, what is Geodis? I will tell you. God Emperor of the U.S. That's what they call Trump. They don't call him POTUS, President of the U.S. They call him